welcome to Let's Talk Tottenham, fresh from a 1-1 draw against West Ham, still undefeated, 2 London derbies away from home, not lost the game yet, not lost those, 4 games gone that we lost last season, another one with Forest that we didn't play last season, but we didn't lose, and it was 1-1 against West Ham, and on the Let's Talk Tottenham, it's 1-1 with West Ham, me, Tottenham, and Mike, West Ham fan. How you doing?
All right, mate. How about you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. I was worried that we'd lose and then you'd come on here grinning like the Cheshire Cat and it would be horrible. But yeah, the spoils shared. But just first things first, everybody in the chat. There's a few people. Jamie Pretty in the chat, working tonight. In Conte we trust. Levy out. Enoch out. Let's beat Fulham confidently, not by luck. Have a great show, nearly 7 p.m. in Manila at work. Thanks so much for watching, even though it's kind of not the best time. And Ian saying hi to Jamie if you're still here. But thanks so much for getting in the comments and for watching. Please get the comments coming in. Questions, topics that we're discussing to do with West Ham. Any questions for West Ham, for Mike as well. And yeah, please hit that like and please hit that subscribe. Mike does have a channel himself. It's in the description and he'll let you know at the end where you can find that. So first things first, Mike, the transfer window has ended. Obviously, we're here talking about the West Ham Spurs game, but there's stuff happened since then, so we'll come back to that. But we'll come to West Ham's part in a minute. So transfer window ended. Happy? Question mark. A lot of Spurs fans not, but it's quite funny. I've seen on Twitter and other streams and everything that Perisic, Basuma, Richarlison are rated as our only good transfers this window. Whereas when we signed him at the start, Forster, step up on Galini, was a brilliant signing as well. All of a sudden, he's gone from brilliant to not even in the conversation. And I'm disappointed we didn't get another central defender in and someone creative. But I don't think it's been a terrible window. I'd say average 6.5, 7. But I did streams at the end of last season. Spurs fans came on or in the chats and saying we need like 15, 14 players here. We won't get that many. We haven't got that many. And then they're upset that we haven't got that many. And Conte's even said we need 2, 3, 4 windows to sort this team out and get them challenging for titles. And they're upset we haven't got all the players that we need in one window. I understand people's frustrations and it's because of Levy's done this and disappointed us for 20 years straight now. But I think the only team who can be happy that they've covered all bases in the transfer window are Man City. And let's face it, they didn't really have that many bases to cover. But in terms of Tottenham, I know you don't really care, but I'm going to ask you anyway. From the outside, do you think the window's been good for Tottenham, bad for Tottenham, indifferent?
I think any window where Tottenham keep Kane and Son is a good window. As again, Shaggy as well. Nice to be again, mate. I think for Spurs, as long as you keep your best players, that's the start of a good window. Perisic is a solid sign-in because, again, he knows Conte. Conte knows how he works.
He adds that winning mentality in as well, which is something.
Yeah, age is a factor that makes you just go, it's a good sign-in rather than a real quality sign-in because it doesn't really give much longevity as such. But again, I think it's a conversation we've had before that Conte is not a longevity manager. He's a here and now manager. He wants to win now. He doesn't really want to wait. And even though he's talking about multiple windows, he's still thinking that I need to compete and win now. So that's why signings like Perisic come in. But otherwise, again, you've got Romero. He was made permanent. So again, that's a good signing. But, you've not necessarily improved your 11 too much. Obviously, Basuma's a good addition, but from the outside, I wouldn't say there's much in that Spurs side that is a vast improvement on last year. Obviously, Kulusevski again and Romero essentially really have just maintained your team as opposed to improved your team because obviously you improved in January. So you would argue Basuma is probably the only real improvement to your 11. Because the rest of it was about sustaining what you had in January, where you saw your distinct upturn in form.
Yeah, I mean, what we have got this season, certainly with those three, Perisic is starting, but Basuma and Richarlison is we've got options off the bench now. Not that he used them, he only used Richarlison in the West Ham game, but that aside. But we've got options off the bench now, which is obviously an improvement from last year. But yeah, it's just we weren't going to get all the players that we needed. And a comment here from Ian, Garden window, like you, I'm a bit disappointed we didn't do more business. Now the dust has settled. We were linked with a lot of players who are all with their current clubs. We haven't settled. I'm assuming that means haven't settled for, okay, they don't want to come. Let's get a B team. Which is what we've done in the past. And what I also like, Bastoni in particular, I want to stay at Inter Milan. We didn't do an Adama Traore situation. Okay, you want to stay, but we're going to pester you for, the next 3 months. Okay, move on. We got Longley, obviously not as good an option, but he was the best one available. Ian's carried on. We haven't settled for second-rate signings. May not be pretty, but the team is achieving results. There is strength in depth we didn't have last season. Basuma for Winks, Richarlison for Bergwijn is a major step up. Yeah, so I don't think it's the worst, but obviously I wanted another central defender, a good central defender, because if Romero gets injured, we've got Sanchez in who... If one of the Dyer gets injured, we haven't got a leader in there. So I wanted a leader in there, and I wanted someone creative. But we've got a Richarlison in who can fill in for the top three or replace one of the top three if needed. Certainly in this long run with up until you're in the same boat up until the World Cup, it's like 2 games a week, maybe even 3.
Yeah, I think it's 11 Premier League games, isn't it, between now and the break, which is
absolutely ridiculous. Really. And then you've got the Carling Cup. Whatever it's called now, third round in the middle of that as well, Champions League, Europa League, and then the World Cup. So he obviously improves on that. Basuma as well in the midfield. Bellini wasn't at it, forced as much better. Perisic. I think Perisic as well can help Sessegnon and Spence as well. So I think it's been between average and good. It would have been really, really good if we got those extra 2 players in. We've also got some of the dead wood out. The issue that we've got is they're all on loans without any fee involved. But that's another step up from last season and previously, where it was always, we signed them for 40 million, they're not going for anything less than 50. But I want them out of the club. Well, they're not going for less than 50. Now they've just got out. Just get out. They're coming back, but for this season, they're not there. So I think people need to calm down. I understand where the frustration comes from, but I don't think it's been the worst window ever. And Conte got his players in early. All of our players will come to Paqueta and West Ham in a bit, but he obviously, now the season has started, has to get used to West Ham, which none of our players have to do that because that's what the pre-season was for, which hasn't happened before either. And that's what Conte demanded, get my players in early, which we haven't seen before. And so Levy has done that for him. Levy still has to do that for January, the next summer, the next January, the next, and so on and so forth. It can't just be where he's done well this weekend, all is forgiven. It can't be like that. But yeah, and you never know. There might be an extra bit of the kitty saved going, well, if we're up there or thereabouts, the World Cup is there. People are going to be fatigued. Give me some money for January. That could be there and we could be making strides in January. And a lot of players won't be wanting to move this summer, potentially, because James Ward-Prowse, for example, I'm a starter at Southampton. I'm their main man. If I go to Tottenham, the World Cup, kiss goodbye unless I force my way into that team. Come January, that World Cup isn't there. So then that might be something else. So you might see a few more players coming in. Yeah, that's just my thoughts. I know a lot of people have had their thoughts, and I understand people's thoughts and understand the frustrations. But for me, it's not the worst window in the world. But West Ham, one player that we were linked with, which you got, which we didn't, which is a bit disappointing, is a creative player, Paqueta. You got Scamacca, I think his name is, up top as well. Mm-hmm. People upset that we haven't got that, and then they say we've got the best striker in the world. But anyway, we don't necessarily have a striker to replace Kane, but although Richarlison can fill that in. But in terms of your window, it's obviously been done a bit later than Tottenham. Obviously ours before pre-season ended. Yours hasn't. But in terms of the players, how do you rate your window?
Yeah, so we had the fortunate part of a lot of our deadwood had contracts expiring, so a lot left. We also got rid of players like Diop, who had a really good start when he first came to West Ham, but then he just never really lived up to his potential. See, Vlasic I didn't think really got a fair chance, but again, he was put out on loan as well. So we got rid of or shifted players that weren't going to be part of the kind of thing. Aguerd was a great signing, but picked up an injury. I wouldn't say it's a blessing in disguise, but what it probably has forced us to do is to go and get Tilo Kehrer, who, good on the lad, decided he wasn't going to let Son have the goal, so he put it in his own net. So, that makes him a good West Ham player already, refusing to let them score. But yeah, so Kehra's a good signing.
In fairness to him, he didn't have a choice.
Yeah,
Did
he
he?
didn't have a
Either
choice.
scores
It
an
was-
own goal or
yeah.
he lets Son get a tap in. So
Exactly.
at least he was trying to be proactive and stop it. It just done.
No, exactly. And to be fair, Kehra had a solid game, but he's been solid since he started. Bar the mistake against Brighton, he actually had largely a fairly good debut. But no, he's been a very good signing from PSG. 10 million quid means, again, we can be flexible in our defensive setup. We can play a 3 at the back. We can play as a 2. Gives us that flexibility the way he is. Then you look at like Cornet, solid signing after last year. Not had a chance yet, but that will come most likely in Europa. Again, Scamacca, he was one of the most touted and wanted strikers in Europe this summer. PSG, one of the clubs who went for him, and he chose us in the end. Paqueta, again, could have
That's
gone
a good
to...
signing, that is, when he gets into fitness and everything.
Exactly.
We played you when we did, and he only had a cameo.
And I think as well, Scamacca, unfortunately, was ill. I think he would have possibly made a difference in those final stages as well against Tottenham. He's just a player that, due to his size, when he's in the area, he attracts attention, which ultimately makes space for others. But I think all in all, you could say that we've had a really solid window. It's probably an 8 or a 9. Some of our fans will say a 10. I can't say it's a 10 unless you win something. For me, I don't think there is a 10 out of a 10 window unless you are winning something, or if you have covered absolutely every position. You have such good strength and depth.
Yeah, like I say, only Man City can really do that because they don't really have to.
Exactly. City are going to probably go and barnstorm and win the league. Not only did win the league, they potentially could win Champions League with not just Haaland, but they've got
Alvarez as well.
So. Yeah, you just look at it and go, we've had a really solid season. Unfortunately for teams like West Ham, it's that matter or that concept of keeping up with the Joneses, because all the top teams are spending. So you really have to either stretch yourselves into going and get these players, or you have to be very smart in recruitment. And I think we've done a bit of both. We've replaced players. Certain players can't be replaced. And I don't mean this in terms of quality. Like Noble, for instance, is a player that's very hard to replace. Quality-wise, I wouldn't say that is hard to replace, but it's the overall impact and personality that he had within
the club that he has at the club as well.
Exactly. Then that's always hard to replace. That was a big shift for us, and I think that was quite evident at the start of the season. How I don't think we adjusted quite well enough to him going. I think the win against Villa took the monkey off our back. And then the game against Spurs, you could see there was a bit of more of a fight in the players. And I think some players are starting to step out of some shadows. And even the new players are starting to also make an impact. So, yeah, a few positions we obviously wanted, which we didn't get. Like we wanted another CM, we wanted the right back. But when you consider the work we did do, it's only so much you can do in one window. And unless we have a 200 million plus budget, we weren't going to cover all those positions. January's a play, like you said, January, probably a time where you go maybe revisit. But I think more likely we'll be in the summer, we'll be coming back to rectify a couple of positions. We'll probably have to replace one big player anyway come summer next year. But
it depends how you do this season. If you got in the Champions League, let's say, you probably wouldn't need to unless Chelsea,
Well, I think if we got into Champions League, then it would mean we would get a grotesque offer.
Yeah, I'm assuming you're talking about Cresswell.
Yeah, obviously.
But I mean, Jared Bowen could also go if he has a good season. I think he's a quality player, but obviously we're talking about price there, which is.
If you looked at that, that's what I've said as well throughout this summer, is that we could stretch this summer and go and spend, because we haven't necessarily spent in other summers, but it's the simple fact that next year we know we have 2 very sellable assets that not only will recoup essentially what we paid out this summer, but also means it can fund as well. So it wasn't a bad tactic, and it also means we're strengthening our team extensively to a point where should one of them go, it's not necessarily going to be as impactful, provided we do the correct recruitment.
No. It's exactly the same as Liverpool, isn't it? They got rid of Coutinho, one of their best players, basically won them the league because they funded the 2 positions they really needed, goalkeeper and central defender. But yeah, I think with Tottenham, I think January could be fairly big. Certainly if we're there or thereabouts at the top of the league, it doesn't really matter if we're not there. The Conte will go, we need top 4. We need to,
Yeah.
So I think January could be really big business and a lot of movement, certainly because the World Cup has finished and a lot of players will be fatigued. And I think a lot of players will get injured as well. A lot of players will be fatigued, I think, going into the World Cup. And then I think you could see injuries, people pulling up and cramp and all sorts of things. But I mean, transfer window there. We've almost forgot that we did have a game. 1-1, Spurs, West Ham. We lost there last season, 1-0. Again, we didn't play very well, I didn't think. I only saw the highlights on Match of the Day, but I've spoken to other Spurs fans. Rode our luck a little bit, but we still managed to grind out a result. But a draw, was it a fair result? I've seen that we were the better team in the first half, you the better team in the second half. We certainly had more possession looking at BBC Sport in the first half. But Jacob, who was on Tommy's channel yesterday from One Up Top, I think his stream is called, was saying essentially in the first half, West Ham tried to Tottenham sit back and counter, which is why we had a lot of the ball, didn't do anything with it. The penalty appeal, which we'll come to a bit later on, gave you a bit of momentum again and a bit of fire. And then it was almost like Moyes said, no. Remember, we're Tottenham in Tottenham here. And then we scored the goal. And then the second half came out going, okay, let's play football. Let's go to plan B. And then we can cope with it. Is that how you saw it?
Yeah, so really the first half, I think what we tried to do in the first half was more stifle Tottenham. But what we deliberately did and what made Tottenham struggle at times was we were very smart in how we pressed Tottenham. We also recognised that you playing out the back actually isn't your strength, unless you can get it to Højbjerg and Bazuma. And what we did was we essentially, whenever you played out from the back, Benrahma stood directly on Højbjerg, and Antonio then stood essentially so he could move between your centre backs to kind of block lanes and pass. And then if the ball went out wide, then Benrahma would go out to the wide position to cover again, and then Antonio would come over to Højbjerg, and then you had Souček who would then just sit on Basuma. So we made it very difficult for you to find that out ball, and why you actually a couple of times had to play long. Essentially, Spurs really the only thing they had in that first half were counter-attacks. We had a couple of effective counter-attacks ourselves. Obviously, Antonio hitting the crossbar. Bowen in form is not hitting that one so wide as he did in the first half. If he was on form, he's hitting that much cleaner. Just look at the goal against Lyon last season. It's almost a carbon copy situation, but just sliced at it because he's not necessarily in that form, feeling comfortable when he's shooting, particularly with his right foot. But yeah, the first half was, I think, a bit like a boxing fight where both teams were just throwing jabs at each other. No one really trying to throw a definitive punch. There was a mistake on the edge of your area, which you then broke. And essentially we didn't recognise that we needed to come across and maybe push or maybe foul. Azuma, I think, gave too much room to, I can't remember who it was before it got passed to Kane. It might have been, wouldn't have been Sonic.
It was Kulu.
Yeah, so I think he probably didn't recognise there. Maybe he should have come across a bit quicker to kind of close down that angle. But, and Tilo had no choice in what he had to do. It was either let it run and it'd be a tap-in for
it's slightly annoying for me that he did get in the way, because it would have been really good for Son's confidence just to get a goal.
So for West Ham fans, we end up laughing because it's just like, well, he may have scored an own goal, which is crap, but what
I did like about Son, certainly in the second half, is that there's a bit in the second half where he went down the left, cut inside, got a shot off it, it took a deflection, went wide. But that's the Son that you want to see. Too often this season where you can see he's lacking form, he checks back, passes it back, goes in the middle. That's what Son does. So to me, that looked like potentially that the confidence is coming back. And as we know, a confident Son in that team, certainly with counter-attacking and Kane there, will score goals.
Yeah, I think the main spark was obviously, you mentioned the penalty. I don't think that necessarily sparked us into life. I think it was a frustration, and once it actually got given, the ref nearly had a howler, and then Conte.
We'll talk about the penalty. Yeah, we'll talk about the penalty in a bit.
I'll talk about it in a bit, because Conte's comment after the game was just hilarious, because if it would have been the other way round, he wouldn't have been saying what he was saying. But
I think though as well, if it was the other way round, you may be saying it was a penalty.
No, it wasn't a penalty. Even if the other way round, I would have said, well, hit him in the face.
Let's get into it now. Let's have an argument. Here's a picture. I got this from Match of the Day, so it's not the greatest thing, but what I would say is his hand and his arm is at a natural angle. It's out from his body, but obviously he can't control
it. It's a crap image because
Thank you.
Yeah, when I watched the replay as well, and you can actually there's another replay that I watch because I've got Instat, so I can rewatch the games however I want when I want, kind of thing. So I rewatched the game, and you actually see one of the particular replays was just so obvious that the ball it hits him in the face first, and then it comes, and it looks like it kind of grazes his arm. Yes, his arm's in an unnatural position, but if it's hit his face and it's also, if it had hit his arm, it would have gone in a different trajectory as well.
The other thing is, I'll be honest with you, I don't really know what the handball rule is now because it's changed 54 times in 2 seasons. But what I would say is there was a time, whether it's now, that whether it hits his face first and then his hand or not, it's a penalty because it's hit his hand. What I would say is after that, it hit one of our players directly and the hand fell down at his feet. But so it's a tricky one. I think if it was the other way round, I'd be going never a penalty. It's hit him in the face, what he's supposed to do. This way round, I'm not sure. Conte was adamant about it, and what I did find funny is having a go at using the video ref. That's what it's there for. So I disagree with that. But in terms of the penalty, it definitely hits him in the face first off.
Yeah, exactly.
But then it brushes his arm, which is a natural angle. So is the rule now, if it hits your arm at any point, a penalty? I don't know the rules now. I don't know the rules now. There's been so many changes.
Directly, I think if your arm's in a natural position and it's directly hit at your arm, I don't think if it hits your thigh, comes up and hits your arm.
Ian said this on the penalty. They changed the law after the Sissoko penalty in the Champions League. If it hits any part of the body before hand or arm, it isn't a penalty.
Yeah, exactly.
Goes to. I don't know the rules. It's changed 54 times in 2 seasons.
Yeah, it's more a direct hit from your arm being in an unnatural position is the kind of giveaway. But
and he goes on to say, he was talking about this on the preview. Issue is after a minute of looking, if they can't see any error, you go with the on-field decision. Same regarding the yellow card not red for Kane incident at Forest.
Well, I don't think go with the on-field. I think if they can't do it in the VAR room, you straight away go to ref. We can't make a decision. We don't think it hit his arm. We can't see clearly. You need to go and watch it on the monitor. It should just be as quick as that. It should be 2 or 3.
That's the other issue with VAR. It's supposed to be for clear and obvious errors, and they're giving offsides for someone's fingernail coming off. But as long as they get to the right decision, I don't really mind. It's just got to be quicker.
And I think that's what
you don't need 2 minutes in the VAR room, and then there's. We're opposite ends of the country. We're talking freely here. It's not like pass a message by carrier pigeon to Mike for this question, and it's just.
The thing that I found funny was the post-match comments where it's, if you make a mistake in the game, then we carry on and we're happy with it. It's like, Conte, you've never been happy with a mistake in a game for one anyway. But
that's just manager speak, isn't it? Taking the focus away from the players not performing very well. And
I know, exactly. It was a deflection from the fact that his team underperformed, particularly in the second half. But it was I found it just quite funny, just that it was because the initial decision benefited Tottenham. He wanted the video referee decision to be completely null and void.
Yeah, but every single manager in football will do that.
Number one to say is if he wouldn't have given the penalty and then VAR would have given it, he would have been all for VAR. It's just the hypocrisy in what he's saying. I just found laughable.
I can guarantee you, though, Moyes will be doing exactly that at some point this season.
Every manager can do it.
Every single manager does it, and it's not anything new. And like you say, it's just a deflection from the team.
Yeah, it was. It was a deflection. It was just funny because you're just like, oh, mate, just take it on the chin. It was the right decision happened. This is the problem. Sometimes, I get it in the heat of the moment, you're trying to deflect, but in some cases, we need to then. In football, there needs to be an acknowledgement of when a decision is made right, that we praise the right decision, because then it encourages those decisions to be continually made. And that's how we can get some consistency. If we continue to moan about right decisions, then, we can't moan about right decisions and then moan about when they make them wrong as well, because it's like, well, you give them no leg to stand on. You need to support them when they do right. Again, chastise when they do wrong, but when it's right, 100%, because we want football to be fair, and that made it fair. But
we'll see. Let's go on to argument number 2 with your goal, foul throw, question mark. Image number 2, please. Again, not great, but I'm moving my cursor. But yeah, when I first saw it, I thought that's a definite foul throw because he slammed it down. Again, I don't necessarily know the rule. Does it have to be slammed down or thrown in the air? I know it has to be behind your head, which I try to get this image for about 5 minutes. It's very difficult to pause it when it's a quick throw. But you can see it is behind his head. So initially, I think it probably was behind his head, not as full back as if,
if you look at that image, Chris, look where the referee's eyes are. And then look where the lino's eyes are.
But again, that's where VAR comes in because VAR is supposed to look at goals, red cards, offside.
The question is, proper point is, Chris, clear and obvious. Was it a clear and obvious?
Yeah. But, well, based on how VAR has been doing it, which it isn't clear and obvious, you'd expect that to be chalked off if it was a foul throw.
This is the thing that I love.
But in terms of that, though, I think it probably is behind his head, so probably okay. But I think even you can agree with the fact that it slammed on the floor. It initially looks iffy.
Oh no, the way it's taken, he's deliberately thrown it at the floor to obviously give Antonio more time to get it. Because he throws it at his chest, and he's got to wait for it. But the thing that I like on that image, can you pop it back up?
What it doesn't do is the fact that the defending was awful afterwards. You still play to the whistle. You look at Højbjerg, he's demonstrating with a referee. Play to the whistle. I don't know what he's demonstrating about.
The goal scorer is standing behind Højbjerg and Basuma.
Yeah.
So he is massively behind the play. Yeah. I love the fact it was Højbjerg that was the one whinging because he got absolutely clattered by Declan Rice. After that, he lost his bottle and everything. And so and Spurs, after that tackle, in the second half came out and they weren't up for the aggressiveness and the fight. In some of the challenges, they went in half anticipating that they're going to lose it or they're going to get hit. And I think that spread them back to your defence.
That's very odd for a Conte team, though, isn't it? You'd expect them to be up for the fight and everything like that.
I think as well, though, Chris, as you said, Romero wasn't in that team. And I know you were saying in the last one you had some fighters. I don't think you really do. I think Højbjerg, he'll go into a challenge now and then, but he's not as brash or as hard as some Tottenham fans think that he is. I think once he got that hit, he was obviously struggling with the injury, but the fact is the rest of the team weren't willing to go into tackles really after that.
I think Basuma got booked, didn't he, early on? Tommy was saying yesterday he thought he was going to be sent off, so he had to come off at half time.
There was a lucky moment in the first half where he'd been yellowed, and then not long after he made another foul, and he was a bit lucky. But it's because we played some quick.
So then he's basically on last warning. You make another foul, you're off, so he can't then go in hard and stuff like that. In case
yellow card in the end, so we kind of nullified your ability to go into those tackles because you got 5 yellow cards because we played some quick passes where you basically come flying in to try and be aggressive, but we passed it immediately, so you just took out the play and picked up a yellow.
So I think you can understand that from Basuma. I mean, Romero's different. Romero don't care. Romero versus Mitrovic on Saturday, the quickest sending off double in history when they took those two together. But
the second half we were far more aggressive in our press as well and pushed higher, and that resulted in Lloris just looked nervous whenever the ball was at his feet. He just gave the ball away, looked nervous with it at his feet.
We'll come on to him later, but you read my mind there. Sorry, carry on.
But he just looked nervous whenever you passed it back. It was a clear tactic of ours to essentially stifle your outball to Basuma and Højbjerg, which meant you only really had the option to play it along your back three and try and either hit a diagonal into Kulusevski and Son, or try and work something to get it there. But once you got it back to Lloris, it just triggered our press. That was our press, was triggered on once it goes to Lloris. And he got very lucky with Bowen at one point because Bowen slid in and almost got his foot to block it.
Well, it wasn't just that. Perisic just tried to come in too weak, got caught by whoever it was. And then it's gone to the next player who's not been strong enough. It was in the box, I suppose.
And even from Lloris. Lloris kicked it out of play.
I mean, what I don't get with Lloris,
he's a fantastic shot stopper, but
not sure if he's shouting at himself there. I don't think that's from the Carabao Cup. It's just, but anyway. What I don't get from Lloris is how bad his kicking has been for 10 years. Harry Kane, for example, stays on the training pitch every day, practices his shooting. Get one of those metal player silhouette things, nick them from Soccer Saturday if you need to. Speak to Jimmy Bullard. Stick it on various places.
Stick
it on various places on the pitch. roll the ball to Lloris, sprint at him to put him under pressure. He's got to hit that thing. And you don't go home until you've hit all of, 5 of them, 6 of them, whatever. But his kicking hasn't improved. I don't understand it at all. And it's not like, it's not like us where we've got a 9 to 5 job and then we've got to go to the gym or go and cook dinner or go and do this and go and do that. They do training, finish at 3. They don't do anything until bloody 9 o'clock the next morning. Go practice your training. That's why people like Kane, Ronaldo, all of these players, Lampard as well back in the day, stay out after training to practice certain things. They want to Beckham with free kicks. Practice your kicking because it's an obvious ploy. And Davinson Sanchez was the same. I was told as well that your ploy was to try. We could have the ball unless it was Lloris or Sanchez because they're the ones under pressure that don't do too well with the passing. But yeah, the Bowen thing that you talk about, I know managers want you to play out the back, but sometimes there are no options. So just hoof the fucking ball long, get back into shape.
When you did hoof it long, it just came back. So I think that was the problem as well. You don't have... Kulusevski is probably your best headerer. Kane, for all his size, isn't that good in the air.
That's his weakness and has been from the start.
And Zuma pretty much, had him aerially. Obviously, Kulusevski was against Cresswell. So again, that's probably only your viable one. Cresswell's actually surprisingly all right in here, considering he's only 5'7". So you didn't really have that out ball because you couldn't really hit it long. Because if you did, then you're then playing for seconds. Because you've got if say we win the ball, then your midfield have to challenge against Rice, who's 6'2", and Souček, who's like 6'4". So all of a sudden, you're playing for seconds and thirds, and it just disrupts you. In that second half, I say we were aggressive, we pushed high, so we forced your defense into mistakes and passing the ball into trying to force it. When you could get out to Højbjerg, you were able to try and build stuff, but we really limited it. I think what it showed was a template really for other clubs as to how to actually hurt Spurs. Obviously, I think it will improve when you get Romero back into your defensive line, but
again, when Basuma gets back up to speed and not on a booking, I think he's tremendous.
But I think, the yellow card doesn't impact you in possession.
No.
Where you were in the second half massively lacking. We did cover your out ball very well from your when you playing at the back, but it was more that our press was absolutely triggered on Davidson, whatever his name is, can't remember his name.
Sanchez,
that's it, yeah. And obviously Lloris, and it caused you to be really scrappy, not to get really any kind of pattern, especially in the second half. And our players were up for the challenge, I think. Had we not been, I think a couple of the half chances you had probably would have been a bit more. But you probably say of the chances created, probably the more clear-cut ones fell to West Ham in the end. And obviously in the second half, they were probably the better chances fell to West Ham, and arguably...
Yeah. I can only remember one for Kane, which was the volley, which he's kind of scuffed at the end.
Yeah.
The Suns one was good defending, but there were people back.
And it possibly would have been ruled out by VAR with Richarlison.
For a foul throw. Quickly, Kuva here, a couple of comments. Big up, lads. That's a compliment. Disappointed with the midweek result and the transfer window. Let's hope we find a way to get into gear soon, and these hard-earned points can make a big difference. Gentle breeze, compressed the lights of Sanchez and Emerson into mistake. Didn't think Emerson played too bad. I think
Emerson wasn't too bad. But
if you get Emerson, if you say either defend for the whole game or attack for the whole game, he's all right. When it's defend in this moment, attack in this moment, he doesn't have the concentration.
He did struggle at times with that because I think Fornals, bearing in mind, and this needs to be shouted out, and I know this is a Spurs channel, so you don't really care, but Fornals isn't a left
I'll let it out,
Fornals isn't a left wing back and doesn't like playing that position, but he absolutely bossed it on that side. Emerson didn't get past him very much. He kept dropping into spaces. He obviously earned a couple of 1,000 yellow cards off of Spurs players through coming in off that left wing or left wing back position to get involved, particularly in the first half where he set off the one where Antonio clipped the post.
Yeah.
So, it was, I think we won a lot of those individual battles, and Spurs we were quite brave in that we actually went in a lot of times 1-for-1 against Spurs, which is often sometimes a death wish because Spurs are so good on the counter. But I think the bravery and where we made those presses really made it difficult for Spurs in the end, which obviously turned out great for us. Could have been even better had Antonio maybe anticipated Bowen when he clipped it across goal. Maybe had we intercepted one of those wayward passes from Lloris, and also had Emerson not run into the same space as Paqueta right towards the end as well. There could have been a dream opener for him. I think had he got that, there was so much time he could have taken a touch and then hit it. And based on his quality, you'd say there's a very good probability he would have, buried it. But I think it was a fair game. I think if you're talking about chances again were few and far between. We probably just edged it. But I think if you had asked any West Ham fan before the game and said, would you take a draw? I think we would have said, yeah. So
I think looking at BBC Sport, it said the total shots were 14 West Ham, 13 Spurs. So
there was literally nothing between us. I think we both had 4 shots on target.
Reading that without the context of the game, it sounds fairly even. But back to Lloris, what I'm concerned about is there was one save from Fornals, which was straight at him, and he's jumped up in the air, punched it away, fallen on the floor, just catch the thing. And then there was another one, I can't remember who from, but he seems to have, in the last couple of weeks, gone to the Jordan Pickford School of Goalkeeping and thought, well, when I parry it, let's see how much into danger I can parry it rather than out for a corner or a throw. And he's got lucky in those sense. Maybe he's done it on purpose because he's seen our defenders there. But Jordan Pickford, for me, does that all the time. Every time he parries, it's straight into the middle. It's not out wide. And Lloris is doing that. His kicking is awful. He's very nervous with kicking. And teams are going to see, like you said, what you did there. And, okay, that's our plan on Lloris. And he worries me a little bit. I mean,
I think it's Lloris's volley where he parried it out.
That's it. Yeah,
had we had I think Antonio at times, his anticipation, because he's not necessarily natural fully in that position, didn't maybe make that move as Rice was taking that shot, because I think that was
where Scamacca will.
Yeah, most probably would have made that movement when your defence is already kind of watching the ball. He's already probably anticipating, well, if that keeper saves it, I need to be in a position to kind of get there. But I think Lloris is a fantastic shot stopper. But I think most teams will probably look at what we did and think that's possibly the way to play. Let Spurs have it in that back line. Be a bit brave, because I think that was the other thing. We're always talking about Lloris's mistakes, but that was enforced by West Ham because we had a brave high line. And against Tottenham, that's often a bit of a kiss of death because Kulusevski's quick, as is Son. So, you are taking liberties in doing that. But I think the way we pushed up high and then triggered the press when it went to Lloris is what made those mistakes. But again, I think it sets a template for other teams, and other teams who have more pace probably in their front line and a bit more quality when those mistakes are made, that Spurs could potentially come undone in 1 or 2 games. But it's all about if you can stop Højbjerg or you can get in around Højbjerg and Bissouma when you're building up, it really limits what Spurs can do.
Skip was on the bench. He's obviously not full fitness because he had a big injury, but he's very good on the ball, I think. So I think he could force his way back in. But in terms of Lloris, I mean, you're right that you did force the errors on him, but it's not his first rodeo in that.
No, exactly.
It's happened time and time again. So I can't understand why he hasn't practiced his kicking under pressure. I just can't. But he is a good shot stopper, but shot stopping isn't just getting in the way of the shot. It's palming it away, getting him in from danger, and he started pinging it into the mid, parrying it into the middle. Like I said, a Jordan Pickford School of Goalkeeping, and I mean, at some point, it's going to be pinged. We got Man City soon. Christ. Well, I mean, we were.
Man City. You've got Haaland soon. I think that's the worry, isn't it?
But we've had 5 games this season. Southampton is probably the first one. Is probably the only one where we've played well and didn't look completely under pressure for all of it. Yeah. But that's to be expected. First home game of the season. First game of the season. Bang up for it. Finished in Champions League. Made some good signings. The others, Chelsea, Wolves, Forest, and yourselves. really under pressure. I am slightly worried at some point we will come across someone whose strikers are banging form and then we end up getting a tonking.
Yeah,
but at this moment in time, we haven't played very well in 80% of the games, but we haven't lost. We've got, I think, 11 points, I think it is. We're only 4 points off the lead. So it can't be that bad a season in that respect. And you would expect as Spurs fans, I know you're not, but, watching Spurs as a neutral, you'd expect Spurs to not be that bad the whole season and to get a little bit better. I would expect
you to be better with the ball and to offer more than just counters. I think the way Tottenham is set up is that you're very functional in midfield. And by that, I mean,
that's a Conte thing, though. Conte,
yeah,
Tommy was saying it yesterday. He's very, very stubborn. Doesn't really have playmakers.
Well,
all the
I would disagree with that because he had Barrea at Inter Milan,
yeah.
who's incredibly industrious, but he's incredibly creative. So that's not actually completely true. I think the problem is Spurs don't have the players that he wants to be in central midfield. He wants that player who is a mixture of a box to box, who has that little bit of extra quality. And I don't think the players you have bought necessarily do that. They have the industry that he wants.
In that respect, though, I think it's very odd because we obviously got Perisic, who is quite clearly a Conte signing.
Mm-hmm.
We got all of these players in early. So it says to me that he said to Conte, Paratici, or both, or whoever, I want this player, I want that player. So if he wanted a player in like that, Eriksen was on a free. You had, I don't think we really bid for Paqueta. And with all due respect, if it was a choice between Tottenham and West Ham, you're getting both of our sides. You'd expect he'd join the Champions League.
Yeah, you'd expect he would have done that.
It doesn't necessarily mean that, obviously, but I don't think we really bid for him. And if he really wanted a player like that, I think we'd have had one by now. Maybe a Maddison. So I'm not sure he wanted that. He either see Basuma, Bentancur, or Højbjerg as one of those players potentially.
Yeah, and I think the reported late interest in Paqueta when we bid for him, that he came out as Spurs is incorrect. I believe it was actually Arsenal. That came in, and also they asked him to essentially wait until January. By that stage, you'd already been quite down the line with West Ham, and I think it also shows a bit of a lack of respect to the player in the sense of, well, if you want that player, you don't then turn around and go, we really, really want you, but you're going to have to wait until we're ready to sign you.
Yeah, my point being is that it looks like Conte's got all the players he wanted in early. If he wanted a player like that, I think we'd have had him early as well. So to me, it says that he either doesn't want that type of player, or one of those four players in midfield, Basuma, three, and Basuma, who he brought in, is that player or can be molded into that player. That's what it suggests to me.
Am I right in saying you wanted Savic from Lazio?
Potentially. I don't really bother with all the rumours and stuff.
But that's what I mean. But I think that's to your point of, I think he did want that player. He wanted, say, Savic, but he just wasn't able to strike a deal and then couldn't find another player that has that mixture of industry and final third penetration.
You're possibly right. But it possibly goes to what Ian was saying earlier as well. We're not settling for second best, but we obviously wanted a central defender, but Stoney didn't want to come, so we went and got Longley, so we got our central defender. Madison was the obvious one that I think we were linked to quite heavily, but 70 million. Potentially a bit too much, but I don't know. It remains to be seen. But it could even be Richarlison plays, Kane drops a bit deep, but then you obviously lose. Opposition fans and players will be delighted that the best striker in the world, in my opinion, isn't a striker anymore.
Well, but then again, under Mourinho, he flourished doing that. So I don't think it's necessarily. Teams will be like, "Oh, great, he's not near our goal," but then it comes down to, well, if you've got Son in form and Kulusevski in form, or even Richarlison, you then have your playmaker who can also score when he gets the opportunity, and then you've got your other guys putting the goals in. So I wouldn't necessarily say fans would rejoice. It just means you have to then, you potentially actually causes more problems, because if you're not playing a three at the back, and I think that's the other thing Spurs struggled with. You played those three so narrow, we just went man for man on them with our centre backs, and Tilo really had Son pretty much put together. And Kane was getting smothered at times by Zuma. Kulusevski probably the only one who had any real kind of joy against.
And then he got taken off, which has got to be for rotation purposes.
I think it's more that, you would get into it, but I also think he felt he needed to change it up. And he's not going to take off Son, because Son, even when he hasn't played well in the past, has got the propensity to pull something out of the bag. And Kane obviously is never coming off. I think what you seriously lacked was something in midfield to change that dynamic. I think your fullbacks, again, I think you took off Perisic as well. Didn't really make an impact. Ogbonna almost cost us early because he got too tight to Richarlison at one bit. But I think he got his own back in the last minute of the game, where he absolutely twisted him up inside and out in a tackle. Absolutely smashed him. But I think when I look at Spurs, it's a good 11. But I think once you start to go past that 11, I think there are teams who can probably empty their bench. I looked at our bench and looked at the fact we had Scamacca as well, we would have had the ability to bring on Scamacca, to bring on Paqueta, to bring on Cornet. Even though I think his star is dwindling, so to speak, I think even getting Lanzini, you could probably argue in some ways our bench, when you compared the two in this game, was better. I think obviously Spurs have a couple of injuries, but I think that you're seeing in the Premier League now, teams are starting to catch up a little bit in some respects. But I tell you a team I think probably would cause Spurs some trouble, and that's Brighton. If Brighton
they did last season, but
and I think it's because Brighton, I think the way their formation is set is perfectly set up to pressure Tottenham, because they have those two essentially inverted wingers playing, in that point where they just will stand on Højbjerg and Basuma, and it will make it difficult for you.
They've also got a brilliant manager and brilliant tactician, in my opinion, as well.
Graham Potter's probably the best manager outside the top six, I would hazard to say.
A couple of comments. Ian, Skip and Basuma, best ball players, if that's what Conte wants in midfield. And Kuva says, Bentancur will struggle to shine unless we're a possession-based team. But what I am confident on is that Conte has a plan. Obviously, the window is closed. He famously said, losers make excuses. Losers find excuses, winners find solutions. And so I'd be very confident he's got a plan of what to do up until it'd be November, and then a part of December as well, after before and after the World Cup, and then regroup and reevaluate in January again. So I'm very confident in that, and I'm fairly confident that we will start to actually have the ball against teams at some point and actually look dangerous. Which brings us on to next. We'll come on to Chelsea, West Ham in a bit. Fulham next, and Mitrovic. Much more, every time he comes up, Mitrovic can't do it in the Premier League. He's proven them wrong this season. I don't know how many goals he's scored, but he's scored in pretty much all of the games.
He's done so far, but let's face it, he's done it before like that for Fulham.
But they are on form at the moment. I think they're up to 6th or 7th. It's not going to be made easy. They've obviously got Willian, and then they've got an ex-Chelsea player or Arsenal player, and I can't remember who now. Oh, no, Carlos Vinicius. Yeah. Whether he'll play or not, I don't know. I imagine he'll come on at some point. So it's not going to be easy, but I would like to think that being at where they are and how they're doing, they will attack us a bit, which then leads the counter-attack open. But I would be very surprised with Tottenham if there aren't some changes just for rotation. I can see Son being dropped or rested, however you want to say it, for Richarlison, and that might help in the sense of fire him up, because we got Marseille away on Wednesday. So we had West Ham Wednesday, Fulham on Saturday, Marseille on Wednesday. The two league games, not that much of a problem, both in London, so not a huge amount of travel. France isn't a million miles away, but it's still a travel day. And then we come back and away from home. I can't remember who against the following weekend. But how do you see that game going? I always say the same thing now with Spurs. I think we'll win, but I think we'll concede a goal. Hopefully Romero's back, because that will help with the Mitrovic challenge. If we give them free kicks, corners,
I think that's key for you, is that Romero's back. I think if he's not back, Mitrovic is going to be salivating at the chance to play against your back three. Because let's say Dyer's not dominant in the air. He's not a dominant defender. Sanchez is Sanchez. like I say,
his strength is pace.
Yeah,
what he does, he lets the ball go over his head to rely on the pace. Pace should be the last resort.
Yeah, so he
taught as a 5-year-old, do not let that ball bounce.
He lets the ball bounce, and that can make a game scrappy. For someone like Mitrovic, he'll be looking to bully him. And again, I can't even remember who played your other. Oh, the other one was Davies. Like, again, he's not dominant. He's a decent defender, but he's not dominant. So, Mitrovic is going to be looking at that back line saying, I think I can. Yeah. He's going to go out, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but in his mind, I'm going to go and hurt every single one of them. When he gets a chance, he's going to jump in hard. He's going to let the old school term, let them know he's there. It's going to be that.
I'm not sure those three play like that way, whereas Romero is the complete opposite. He loves the challenge.
Romero is that aggressiveness, so he will be up for that and will be like, he'll be my responsibility. I will follow him and take him.
I agree. If we need Romero in there to kind of bully him back, because otherwise he could have a bit of a field day with the other three. And then the midfield is interesting as well. But yeah, if Willian starts, that suggests they're going a bit more attacking. He's not really what you call a defensive midfielder, but they are gettable, obviously. And, they are a new team up, had a good start, but how many times we've seen a new team come up, have a good start, and then the kind of bubble bursts. Hopefully that's on Saturday. And then the sign of a good team is how you react in defeat. Steve Cooper at Forest said it after the 6-0. It's how, you're only successful if you can handle defeats and handle failures, I think he said.
But they've also got to incorporate 22 new players. It's got 23 potentially if, I think, I can't remember his name. Your old fullback, potentially.
Aurier. But I mean, they were always going to get probably a hammering at Man City, and their season ain't defined by what happens against Man City. Probably not Tottenham either, although that was at home, so their home form is going to be key. But yeah, Fulham, they've had a good start. They're definitely gettable. Unfortunately, they'll be saying exactly the same thing about us.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of teams will at the moment will look at Spurs and say they're a gettable team. If you can stifle your out ball and your early build up, because you will always play out from the back. You're not going to hit it long because you don't. There's not enough quality in the air in which to really play that long ball kind of game. And I know Conte trying to say that West Ham played long ball, but I think actually in overall we played the same amount of long passes or long balls in the game. So
it's just management speak.
Exactly.
To me, that it's just a deflect thing.
No, exactly. It's a deflection to say it's because you struggle to deal with a team being direct and going at your centre backs, which Fulham will 100% will do because of Mitrovic. So I think if you get Romero back, that's definitely going to help. Again,
do you see much rotation, being that Marseille's coming up? I know you're not obviously a Spurs fan and know the players that well, but
Conte doesn't really rotate very much anyway.
He's going to have to, though, in this kind of period up until November.
We'll probably be on Richarlison, maybe for like Son, because I don't think Son was particularly that great. Kulusevski was your most dangerous player, I would say. I think even Kane,
I think Kulusevski coming off when he was dangerous points to the fact that you are starting on Saturday to me.
Yeah. I think Kulusevski is probably your best player at the moment. Højbjerg, he might be debatable because DD obviously was struggling in the game. But again, I think there's enough about Fulham to cause you problems. But if you are serious contenders for the top of the league, you shouldn't be losing the game.
No. Simply Ace here. How you doing, buddy? Dyer, Davies and Sanchez, if all together start, Mitrovic is going to cause us, capital letters, lots of problems. We will need to score at least 2 goals to win this game. I think if Romero's back, that means Sanchez is out. I'll be much more confident if Romero's back, let's put it that way. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting game. And like I said, I am worried when we come up against a good striker if we give all of these chances away. Mitrovic is that. But I'm also confident that at some point we'll give someone a hammering as well because Kane, Son, Kulusevski will all be firing on all cylinders. So it could be one of those games that's really open and it's a goal fest or a chance fest. And I'd be confident if we got a lot of chances that Kane, Son, Kulusevski, Richarlison as well if he's on, would be able to bang some of those away. But it'll be very interesting. But you're definitely right as well. If we want to have any designs on titles or whatever, this isn't a game we can afford to lose. Really,
No.
these are the kind. If you want to win titles, you beat the teams below you, and you do not lose against the teams around you or above you. Certainly away from home, a draw is a good result there, and at home you beat them. In the same way, in relegation, it doesn't really matter against the teams at the top of the league as long as goal difference and damage limitation is in play. But it's against teams around you. You win. You don't lose. You don't lose the 6 pointers. So if we have any designs on achieving anything this season in the league, like you say, and certainly at home as well, we have to win this game by hook or by crook. Doesn't really matter how. But I'd like to see actually a performance that is, that's a good performance, that, rather than bloody hell, we were lucky.
We made hard work of that.
But then the bloody hell, we're lucky is good in a sense, because last season we weren't lucky. We played bad. We lost. So every now and then it's fine because it shows progress. But if it's for 15 games in a row, it's a bit of an issue there. But yeah, and then lastly, Chelsea, West Ham. So another London derby. I mean, Chelsea are Mr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde at the moment.
Exactly.
Looking fantastic against us without a striker, getting absolutely torn apart by Leeds. I think they lost to Southampton the other day as well, didn't they? I mean, do you fancy your chances, or is this exactly the same as our game was? It's a London derby. It doesn't really matter what they're doing in other games.
Yeah, I think what's been good for us is Souček has started to play again, as in perform, which he has done in the last 2 games. I think we'll probably play the same formation again. We'll probably try and match them up and go 3 at the back. You know, you look at Chelsea at the moment, the strike force looks slightly impotent at the moment.
You'd expect Aubameyang to be straight in that team, though, wouldn't you?
No, he can't. He's broke his jaw, isn't he? So in case you didn't know, his place got broken into and his jaw got broke, so he won't be able to.
I do know he got broken into, so
so he got
okay, but I didn't know his jaw got broken.
Yeah, he got his jaw broken, so he won't be able to play until at least middle of November. So they're still relying on Havertz up front.
Without him, they don't have a striker. That's why we committed actual murder by getting a draw at their place, because they didn't have a striker to put 3 goals in.
Yeah, and you look at Chelsea at the moment, and it's like, obviously they're going to create chances. They've got an incredible team there. It's about limiting those chances, obviously, and making stupid decisions in your own penalty area that can lead to, say, a penalty. I do think
Jorginho against us. Exactly the same as Lloris again with that Bowen thing. Get rid of it. Don't piss her out. Get rid of it. But
I think what we've done in the past, which we don't tend to do against Spurs, which is what always frustrates me that we don't do it against other teams, is that we show too much respect to teams in the top 6 and we don't go at them. Obviously, Man City is a different beast, and sometimes Liverpool, you just don't go at Man City because they will pick you up and laugh at you. So do it.
Certainly not this season,
yeah, exactly. And we've done it against Liverpool as well, where we've been slightly passive, but we've gone at them at the right stages. And against Spurs, we decided not to show respect. We were pensive in the first half because we were just feeling our way in. But against Chelsea, if we just do the usual and sit there passively and let them pass it around and we're not aggressive, get in their faces, then, I think we're missing a trick because their form hasn't been great. No. As good as Koulibaly is, get players in and around him that gets him moving, draw him out wide, because the moment you take him away from that comfort or take him away from Thiago Silva, he starts to look a bit nervous. If you can get 2 or 3 around him all the time and look to kind of undercut or overlap him, he will struggle. He's a very, very good defender, but as soon as you start to make him drift out wide, he does tend to lose a bit of his powers, which is ridiculous. But I think it's what would be important for us is if we can get Scamacca back for the game. He may be out still with his illness. Cresswell potentially is injured. But again, Emerson coming in, I think, is probably a good thing for us. Paqueta probably will be on the bench. Again, I do think we can. I don't think we should be scared of Chelsea. No. I don't think we've done enough this season to warrant you to go there thinking this is a Chelsea team. And I think if you can frustrate them, particularly in the first half, or if you can get an early goal, I think the way their form has been so far this season, their crowd is not going to be supportive. And I think it's that very important old adage, when people used to say about going to Upton Park, if you get get there early or score early, and you can frustrate the fans, they'll turn on the team. That was always what managers would always say about West Ham because of the demand that we'd put on them. I think the same with Chelsea. If we get there, you probably only get the Chelsea chant done once, instead of the twice that they do it. And they'll probably start to turn on their players because they don't like it when they're not performing or bossing teams, which they think they do. And they haven't done it this year. So it's important for us to not necessarily show them respect, in all honesty, and to try and impose ourselves at the right points to give ourselves a chance.
I think you probably will, based on the second half against us. You're much more imposing and then looked a much better team. Yeah. But yeah, a couple of comments regarding Spurs from Derek Hutchinson. How you doing, buddy? Dyer Sanchez Davies, our liability going to cost us this season. We should have replaced these clowns at the back. They did all right towards the end of last season, but like I say, I would have wanted another central defender. And Simply Ace, if we can't win at home against teams like Fulham, we won't finish top 6. We did lose to Southampton at home last year, and as we know, that 4th place, no one seems to ever want that come the end of the season.
It was fun at times watching that. It was infuriating.
Yeah, and we should have got a centre-back at least. Now we are biting nails the back 3. We've got 5. We've got those 3, Romero and Lenglet. I wanted another one, so we've got 6 there, but not a Lenglet or a Davies or Dyer or Sanchez level, but someone of a Romero level. So I think we missed a trick there, but we'll see how it goes. And he goes on to say, we spent 40 million on Spence and Udogie when we should have got a centre-back for slightly more. And Udogie we don't actually have. He's gone back to, I think, Udinese on loan. Spence, I think, though, he's a Conte right wing-back because he goes forward. He's kind of said it was a kind of club signing, but I green-lit it. I don't think we'd have got him if he'd have said absolutely not. Mm-hmm. But I think he does fit the mould of a Conte right wing-back, like a Victor Moses, who will go forward. The amount of dribbles he did in the Championship for Forest last season. He's obviously young, so he could end up being a complete flop, or he could be the Dele Alli that we saw when he came in, who took to the Premier League like a duck to water before Fortnite came in and all of his silly.
He's got pace, which is the most important thing to help him settle.
Yeah. And in terms of Chelsea, I don't think the harmony is there in the new owners and everything like that. But you saw against Leeds, Koulibaly, brilliant defender, brilliantly experienced, 3-0 down, game's done, let's get sent off. Absolutely stupid. For a pullback when he was already on a yellow. And to me, it looks like the owners, the new owners, let's spend all this money because I want to stamp my authority on this team. It's not Roman's empire anymore, it's mine. And I'm not necessarily sure they're buying the players that they need. Aubameyang, with his jaw broken, obviously, horrible thing. Hopefully he's okay. But can't play until November when they need a striker. Surely Chelsea could have gone and got another striker. So to me, it's almost like Man United under Jose, Van Gaal, and a few of the others. We've got the money, let's just spend it. Rather than what I think Tottenham have done is every one of our players has fit a bill that was missing last season. Regardless of, Lenglet may not be the greatest in the world, but he does fit a bill where we were a bit light in central defence. Whereas Chelsea, I think, are just buying players for the sake of it. And I think that's where you can get them because I don't think their team harmony.
I know their defence.
And yeah, Simply Ace says here, I wonder how many players Tuchel agreed to sign. How many players they've signed, let's say 6. I'd be surprised if it's more than 3.
What's surprising is the amount of investment that's gone in their defence. I understand, obviously, you build from the back, but it's the fact that they've put 70-odd million into Fofana. They've obviously gone and got Cucurella, Koulibaly. I know they needed to bring in centre-backs because they lost, obviously, Rudiger.
That's a big one. That's almost the same level for them defensively as I think Mane for Liverpool going is for them up top. Regardless of whether you like Rudiger or not, I can't stand it. But he was superb for them.
It was his character and his leadership alongside Thiago. It had that good. He's awful in a 2, but you put him in a 3, all of a sudden he comes alive as a centre back. But I think there is a little bit of a lack of harmony in that back line. They can't really quite decide what they want to do. Cucurella is trying to find his way in. Obviously, Ben Chilwell. So they have incredible depth in that defensive position. But then you look in their midfield and, Jorginho's powers are waning. His contract's up at the end of the year. Kante, as great as he is, again, another one he's
getting older, isn't he?
Who are slightly waning. Again, his contract's up at the end of the year. So that only really, when you look at that centre midfield, you go, well, you then have Kovacic, but then you struggle to then start to look as well,
they've got Pulisic still, haven't they? But I don't
yeah,
think
you've got Kovacic, you got Loftus Cheek. You kind of look at it and go, yeah, they're good players. Loftus Cheek can be a bit inconsistent when he's rolling. He's very hard to stop. Obviously got Gallagher as well. They didn't get rid of him. But again, then none of them are really particularly clicking. And I think Loftus Cheek has actually done better when he's played as a right wing back. But again, he's not going to play there because of Reece James. So Chelsea do seem to have a little bit of an imbalance in their squad. They've gone, they've done a lot of leg day, but they've not really done much around the core and, the chest area. They've just kind of concentrated just on the kind of legs at the moment.
Yeah, how you doing, Chris? Thanks so much for watching in the comment. We'll end here on a Spurs thing. It is a Spurs stream. You agreed to come on. You knew this was the case. You can't blame me. From Derek, Spence is better than Emerson or Doherty. He should start v Fulham. Simply Ace says Spence should be given a chance over Royal. Then again, I should be given a chance to play over Royal. I think it's a bit harsh on Royal. I think he has improved, but I'd like to see Spence against Fulham. It's not a guaranteed win, but it's a game that on paper you should be winning. So you can maybe expect, if you're playing against Man City, you don't piss around with your team. You play your top team, and it's at home. We should be attacking, which is obviously Spence's quality, and that should hopefully give him some confidence. So like I've said, I think there'll be some rotation. How much there will be, not sure. I think Richarlison will probably start. If it was for me, it would be Son. Even if Son's bang in form, he's going to be playing every single game. You'd imagine he'll play a fair amount in the World Cup. Perfect opportunity to give him a rest. But yeah, in terms of Spence, what do you think he can achieve with Spurs? Or do you think his opportunities will be very, very limited at Spurs? Or do you think it's Doherty, Emerson and Spence, although Doherty hasn't really featured? There's a place up for grabs here. Emerson's at the moment. I'm going to give you a chance. Force your way in.
Yeah, he's got, obviously, every player has a chance, right? But you've got to be given that chance. With you having 3 right wing backs already, obviously, well, Spencer being as part of that 3. It's also a bit of a risk for him as well, because he's at a stage of his career where he was actually starting to play games. He was really out of favour at Middlesbrough, went to Nottingham Forest and found himself, started to develop because he was playing, and now he's put himself in a position where he's not potentially going to play. So he's possibly put his development at risk in taking the move to Tottenham. It's a very good move for Spurs in terms of as a player with a high potential. Again, it's good for him in the sense he goes to play with better players. Should he play and be part of that team, he's right, therefore he's developing. But there are risks for him more than Spurs, because Spurs didn't pay a huge amount for him. So
no,
he's going to need a chance. But when he gets that, with the way Conte is, he cannot falter. He's going to need to perform from the outset. I think the luck is Doherty's not ever really shone since he's moved to Spurs.
He played quite well at the end of last season until he then got an injury and then Emerson stepped in and he played quite well, I thought.
Yeah, and I think Emerson physically has everything you need for a Premier League player, but he just lacks a little bit, I think, at times.
The issue with Emerson is that when he was at Barcelona, he was a fullback. Conte obviously plays with wing backs. It's not a million miles away, but they are 2 different positions.
Oh, no, but he's a massive difference. You can see that in Super. When he plays in a back 4, he's largely better than when he plays as a wing back, because it's just a different role.
And Emerson, that's why for me, Emerson going forward is fairly awful, whereas Doherty is a lot better, but then Doherty's defence isn't as good. Spence, I'm not really sure about, but Spence is definitely attacking wing back.
Yeah, like Spence will do well going forward. When he's forced to defend, it will be interesting to see how he does that consistently against better players. What he has in his locker is that he's quite tall and he is also quite quick. So you tend to see a lot more, I think, in the Premier League, those diagonals hit a lot more. And there's those fullbacks tested in those kind of variable challenges. I think he needs a chance, but he's going to have to perform from day dot that he gets into that 11, because Conte will not suffer someone who is not performing. It's just as simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, Simply A says doesn't think Conte will play Spence because he's not his signing. If he was, then he'd be playing him like Perisic is, and then also goes on to say he looks like a big, strong boy. I disagree. I think if he did. If he wasn't his signing and didn't want him, there's no way he would have greenlit it. And then when Conte gets upset, the world knows about it. He's not someone who keeps all of his upset anguish to himself. We've seen what happened with Chelsea. He's super.
He did what he did to you lot around about January last year when he basically
out. So I think he'll play, and I think there's not a plan in place, but I think taking Kulusevski off against you with I think about 20 minutes to go to keep him fresh. Kulusevski is brilliant. Obviously going forward, but tracking back and helping the wing back out, absolutely superb as well. So I think there's an element there of Spence is going to play. He needs your support. You're better at that. You're fresh because I took you off. You can help him and nurse him kind of through the game. They're obviously both young, but Kulusevski seems to be playing well beyond his years. So I think that could be a case. But those two games, let's have a prediction. I can't do a score prediction. I'm a coward. I can only say I think Spurs will win, but I think they'll score. Your game, I think it'll be some kind of score draw.
Yeah, I think Spurs will win 2-1. I won't do a score prediction on ours.
That's fine.
Again, it feels to me like I'm betting on West Ham, and I've been a West Ham fan long enough to know I can't bet on West Ham.
Exactly how I feel with Tottenham. They stress me out enough. I don't need sort of like pride, and if I went to a bet, some money on it.
We don't tend to do great at Stamford Bridge, so it's probably going to be a Chelsea win because we tend to show the Big Six too much respect. Hence why I feel like Chelsea could win. But if we go there with the same mentality we did against you lot, then there's no reason to believe that we can't come away with a result. A win might be a stretch too far, but again, with the way Chelsea have played, there's no reason to disbelieve that possibility.
No, they're very Jekyll and Hyde, aren't they? They're not like Man City who look unstoppable, and I would say Arsenal unstoppable, but I can't.
Yeah,
I think their game against Man United could be very interesting.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good matchup, us against Chelsea. Again, as I say, provided we don't go there showing them respect. You lot, with Romero's back, I think you'll have a better day. If you don't have Romero back, I think you'll have some struggles throughout the game. Not saying that you're going to lose, but I think you'll have some difficulties because of Mitrovic is really feeling himself at the moment as to his form and playing against the Premier League defenders.
Yeah, I mean, Simply Ace has gone with me for your game 1-1, score draw, and then 3-2 Spurs over Fulham. I'd take that, although
I'd take a 1-1 against Chelsea. I think that's great going into the following week, and then obviously in the Europa conference, I think a positive result against Chelsea would be good.
Yeah, I think a lot of the European teams will be rotating a little bit. Haaland possibly doesn't need to be rotated because they're not in the World Cup, so he gets a month off November to December anyway.
Full 30 days to recuperate and come back even better.
So I think he'll play most of the games, whereas other players will be rotated. And Derek, I completely disagree with this. Dyer versus Haaland will be fun to watch. It will be a horror movie. It will not be fun at all. Anyway, we pretty much reached the end there. A review of a match, a review of the transfer window from both sides, and then a preview of the matches coming up. Be back on the Hotspur Hood on Monday, so that'll be a review of the Fulham game, and then a preview for the Marseille game, so that'll be on the Hotspur Hood, and then back on here on Friday for a review of the Marseille game and a preview of whoever we're playing next. An experienced person who does this would actually know who that is, but it is me. I'm useless. But yeah, we'll see how that goes on. Hopefully we can keep the wins going and get ourselves started in the Champions League as well. And Simply Dyer will be massacred. I think that might be a bit polite. Great show. Cheers, buddy. Appreciate it. And all the comments. And thanks to everybody who's put the comments in. If you haven't done so already, hit a like. And if you're watching, and if you haven't already and you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe. Really helps the channel. If you're watching the replay, please hit the like, please hit the subscribe. And any questions, comments that you have, put them in the comments section as well. Mike, as a West Ham fan, does have a channel. I can appreciate you might not want to go and watch it, but it is a football channel after all, and we're a football community here. So Babbling Irons is what it's called. It's in the description, both on the podcast and on YouTube. But yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's myself and two other guys talking all things West Ham. trying to be a little bit more on the analytical side of the kind of football conversation. It's very easy to get dragged into the fan opinion side, but we try and be a bit more kind of factual, looking at kind of how players are statistically and how we're performing. And obviously, as part of what we've done and what we will be doing is, during transfer windows, drawing up based on data and our knowledge of the team and so on, using kind of data to benchmark players and kind of call out as to, recruitment lists that could potentially be what we need for positions that we're looking at as well. So, yeah, we get quite active on that side, do some kind of little scout reports as well on players as well, or scout cards on a couple of players. So, yeah, we try and get involved more on that kind of bit to differentiate ourselves and be less about our own fan opinion, but more on the kind of driven analytical side, shall we say.
Excellent. So, yeah, make sure you check that out. It's a football channel. It is West Ham, but it's a football channel as well. Check out the Hotspur Hood. That's Tommy's channel, where I'll be on Monday with the exact same show. He lets me do it on there. Hit the notification bell there because he's got so many people who do channels. That's your best bet to keep up to date with everything. And then you can see there on my thing, Chris's Magic as well. It's a side kind of channel for me. Little magic trick every week, Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. Tutorial this week. On a little flourish, not a card trick. But yeah, check that out if you like your magic and something a bit different. And yeah, we'll be back on Monday. Hopefully we can get that win against Fulham, keep ourselves undefeated, and against Marseille as well, get ourselves off to a flying start in the Champions League and moving on up after the transfer window. Hopefully put ourselves in a good position come January, make reinforcements then and really have a go in the last end of the season. So yeah, be back on Monday on the Hotspur Hood. Until then, come on, you Spurs. Before you go, please leave a like and hit the subscribe button. Also hit the notification bell. You'll be notified when we go live. For anyone who missed the live stream, you can catch us on Let's Talk Tottenham's YouTube account whenever you want. Please leave any comments or suggestions in the comments box. For anyone who listens to the audio-only podcast, thank you so much for listening. Anyone who wants that audio-only podcast, you can get that wherever you get your podcast from. Alternatively, go to our Twitter account @LTalkTottenham or Instagram account Let's Talk Tottenham Podcast to find all the information there. We're back on Mondays on the Hotspur Hood YouTube channel, 7:30 p.m. UK time, and back on Let's Talk Tottenham's YouTube channel at 12:30 p.m. UK time as well. For anyone who wants something a bit different, not just football, and likes their magic, please head over to Chris's Magic YouTube channel. One trick a week, Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. UK time as well. Always drops then. And thanks